Good day everyone, my name is Clarus, probably better known online as the Dollar Game Store, and I've had the privilege of recently taking part in the Luxod Game Jam. I've been asked to answer a couple of questions, so bear with me while I ramble a little bit. So I've always been a bit of a sucker for arcade games. I think it's like many people, it was quite a large portion of my childhood and growing up. And I recently even built my own arcade cabinet that's fully coin operated just to try and recapture some of that magic. So when I saw this Luxod Game Jam being a jam technically targeted at making arcade games for an actual arcade experience, I was quite excited to be able to take part in it. Over the past few years, I've kind of leaned into creating unique and interesting puzzle games, and the theme for this jam about not falling kind of leans more towards an action type game. So it was quite a challenge to think about how we can combine something that's based off puzzle mechanics but also make it an action-based game that's suitable for arcade machines. If you look at games like Tetris and so on, they're actually perfect because as much as it's a puzzler, it's also real-time because the blocks fall down faster the more you progress, which forces the player to play at a quicker pace. So after a bunch of thinking and trying to figure out how to combine match 3 mechanics into something action-packed, Super Bird Brain was born. The game basically combines platforming with Bejeweled, meaning that you have to create groups of matching colors while jumping between platforms. In creating this game, I really wanted to capture that kind of awe I felt as a kid, walking to an arcade and seeing the silent cabinet with a really cool looking image on it, and then the moment you start playing it just bursts with sound and effects and just all exciting things. My hope is that other people who also play this game will experience the same kind of feelings that I used to experience as a child. When I discovered this jam, I was actually at my parents' place on holidays, so I only had my shoddy old laptop with me. But interestingly enough, work-wise, this project didn't take too long. Even though it was a bit staggered, I'd say it was probably about 40-50 hours worth of development work. The thing is, I've learned from painful experience in the past that it's important to keep your scope as small as possible and to just try and get a working product out of the door, and then if you really feel up to it, try and add some extra features. Because the problem is, if you start baking those features in early on, then you're forced to finish them, and sometimes you run out of steam towards the end of the jam. One of the questions I got asked is that if 100 people played the game, how many would I expect to beat it? Now, the fun thing about Super Bird Brain is there is technically an end to the game. If you use up all the platforms, eventually you reach a bonus platform that gives you more score. So in the realm of that, I would say probably only about 10 people would actually see that state, because the game revolves more around trying to not fall off while trying to set a high score. And when designing the game, what I tried to do is make it as easy as possible to be able to just pick up and play, but still have a skill ceiling that's high enough that people who play it regularly will have something to challenge and high scores to try and beat in the online leaderboards. I think one of the questions that really hits home is the one that asks how many times did I almost quit while trying to make this game. And I think this is something a lot of us game devs suffer from, where idea machines, but we don't really have the endurance to always finish the ideas. The most exciting part is probably coming up with the idea and just building the core mechanics and the more technical portion. That's always been my strong suit. So once that's over, you kind of lose steam a little bit towards the end, and I'll be honest, the project did sit for about 3 or 4 days where I didn't touch it. But luckily the community around the Luxod Game Jam have just been so talkative and friendly and excited that it just gave me that kind of push that I needed to finish the game. And now for a dangerous question, which was asked, which is, what advice would you give to other devs who are thinking of joining the next jam? And the reason why I say that's a dangerous question is because once I start ranting, it's hard to get me to stop. So My first bit of advice would probably be focus. And what I mean by that is you often see that people will try and create an experience that does a lot instead of creating something that does less but does it well. And then that's an important portion when the game is being judged, the judges will tend to look more at how well does it do what it's trying to do as opposed to how much does it do. The second bit of advice is when the theme gets announced, just think, and the first idea that comes to mind, you take it and you throw it away because odds are that someone else is probably going to be doing the same thing if that idea popped into your mind that quickly. And then the important part with theme as well is try and think of it as not just a visual theme, but try and think about how can you turn it into a mechanic that ties in well with the game, or maybe even a limitation to some sort, because the more of those you implement, the stronger the theme will come through. And then maybe some advice that's a bit more specific to the Luxod game jams is try and think, before you even start to work on your game, try and think about the complete experience of your game, the complete flow, meaning how will it play from start to finish, and how would users experience it specifically in an arcade setting. So that means your game needs to be quick and snackable is a term that they like to use in the industry. People should be able to, just by looking at your game, understand it within a few seconds. And then also, how well does your game flow from start to finish? Meaning that you want a game that's replayable, something that you can quickly restart, and something where the rounds are short but meaningful. You don't want a game where you have to walk for 10 minutes to go grab something. That's not ideal for an arcade setting. All in all, this was an incredibly fun game jam experience, probably one of the most fun game jams that I've had the honor of being part of recently, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from Luxod Games and their amazing community.